They want blood.
Hey everyone, Ian from Eurogamer here, and I've just got to say, I absolutely love the Metro games. They're not without their problems, sure, but as immersive first-person narrative-driven shooters go, the series ranks up there as one of the best and spookiest I've ever played. So, if the Metro Exodus gameplay shown at this year's E3 got you all curious, but you've never played the previous games, or want a little bit of a refresher course before the February 2019 release date, here are 7 things you need to know about Metro Exodus, along with a little bit of backstory to help it all make sense. Naslаждаться. That was, Russian for enjoy, I think. Oh god, I hope I didn't butcher that pronunciation. Oh, please don't hate me, Russia. The Metro series, in both the games and books, is set in an alternate version of Moscow, where 20 years after World War III turned the surface of planet Earth into an episode of The X-Files, the few remaining survivors now struggle to stay alive inside the city's crumbling metro system. And that's where both Metro 2033 and its sequel, Metro Last Light, are set, in these dark, dank, abandoned train tunnels where all manner of dangers lurk in the shadows. The upcoming game, Metro Exodus, takes place about a year or so after the events of Metro Last Light, and by that I mean it takes place a year after the events of the good ending of Metro Last Light, and not the bad ending, which I got, because in the bad ending, our hero Artyom gets evaporated by a huge explosion, and, well, no one's walking away from that now, are they?
Don't be afraid. There is nothing to be afraid of now.
Metro Exodus then takes us out of the metro system and far away from Moscow, where the air on the surface is now safe to breathe. The new game follows Artyom and his Spartan Ranger pals as they embark on a year-long journey to reach a place called Vladivostok, where they hope to start a new life far away from electric ball ghosts and whatever the hell this thing is. To get where they're going, the team need to board and then maintain a heavily modified steam train known as the Aurora, a task which, somewhat predictably, means they'll have to keep getting out of it in really dangerous places in order to, get some coal or something? Both Metro 2033 and its sequel, Metro Last Light, are linear shooters that feature levels set in the claustrophobic confines of the Moscow underground. You're not always trapped in the tunnels of terror though. In both games you do occasionally get to pop up to the surface for a breather. Except for it's not a breather really, because the surface is poison, and if you breathe it in, you'll die. So there's this whole survival system built around keeping your gas mask in good nick. But anyway, the darkness of these tunnels means that, while the game can be played as a straightforward shooter, maximum stealth is normally the sensible way forward, and Metro Exodus is no different. Except for that it is a bit. You see, with Metro Exodus going topside, it's allowed the game to open up a bit more and present the player with small sandbox-style sections to mess around in. These areas are connected by your more traditional linear segments, but each one is designed to be played either stealthily or with guns blazing, depending on your mood or how well your plans have gone. Think of it a bit like a bunch of mini Far Crys joined together by a Call of Duty, if both of those games were haunted. Basically, it seems like they're adding a bit of a stalker vibe to the proceedings, whilst at the same time keeping the core Metro experience alive and well. If you do start to miss the dingy tunnels of the Moscow Metro though, you'll be able to take advantage of the game's new day-night cycle by setting your alarm and having a little snooze. Just be careful not to let the bedbugs bite. They might not be much of a threat in real life, but in the Metro games, they're probably the size of a frickin' car or something. Oh, and if you thought you'd gotten away with never having to wipe your old breath mist off a sweaty gas mask again, I've got news for you. The air topside might be mostly fresh as a daisy in these parts, but there will definitely still be points where you'll need to wear a gas mask if you don't want your lungs to turn into a pair of puddles. So, I mentioned our hero Artyom earlier, but who is he and what's he up to in Metro Exodus? Well, to put it bluntly, Artyom has been a pretty busy boy. In Metro 2033, he joins up with a ranger named Miller and fights his way through swathes of Nazis and communists before going face to face with this gigantic cyst thing and finally firing some missiles at a hive of some mysterious creatures known as the Dark Ones. Who turn out to be peaceful creatures, by the way. Whoopsie! In Last Light, Artyom, now officially a ranger himself, is sent to hunt down and kill the last remaining Dark One, alongside Miller's daughter Anna, the ranger's bestest sniper.
Watch out! Down!
Turns out this Dark One is actually a child though, which makes your boy Artyom feel a little guilty. And while he tries to decide the best course of action, both he and Anna get captured by the Nazi Reich.
Guten Morgen!
What follows is lots more fighting in tunnels, some brutal double crosses, loads more monsters, and an intense showdown between the Rangers and the Communist Red Army in the D6 military facility, otherwise known as the Rangers Base.
Will you shut up or what?
Metro Exodus then continues on from the good ending of Metro Last Light, where instead of exploding himself, Artyom gets surprised by his little Dark One pal, who turns up with a bunch of his mates to save the day.
Artyom, no need for that now.
That electric tower there looks like a perfect sniping position. Let's go.
In the Metro Exodus timeline, Artyom and Anna are now married and are joined by Miller and the unnamed crew of the Aurora as they chug their way across Mother Russia to find a safe haven. Chuggity-tuggity, chuggity-tuggity. A story-driven first-person shooter isn't going to be very good without a bunch of lovely guns, and thankfully, in the previous games, there were plenty of them. Trouble is, they were a little bit shit, because a lot of them were made out of, I don't know, kettle leads and baked bean tins and bicycle pumps or something. While there was limited weapon customization in the previous games, in the form of attachments, these things had to be bought from weapons vendors with bullets, which is the currency of the Moscow Metro. That's right, bullets, which are scarce enough down there already, are also needed if you want to buy stuff, leading to some pretty tough decisions later on in the games. So, how is Exodus different? Well, for a start, while ammo is still scarce above ground, it's no longer the main currency. Not much has been said about trading or buying attachments yet, or what the new currency, if there is one, will be, but there has been a big deal made about the ability to craft on the fly whilst in the field. By unrolling your new crafting pack, you can put together weapons, attachments, ammo, and even throwing knives. But be careful where you choose to do this, because it will leave you open to attack. There are several safe zones in the game that house special crafting benches where you can knock up bigger and better weapons. But do remember that everything you make will need a certain amount of resources to produce. Mutants play a huge part in the Metro games. If you're not beating off hordes of rat-like lurkers, you're watching the skies for demons, or running for your life from the librarians. Which isn't a very scary name, no, but just you try going face to face with one of these freak shows and see how long you last. Anyway, I'm sure we'll see all those and many more familiar faces in Metro Exodus, but there is one new mutant that's unique to this new region that we'll be exploring, and they're called Humanimals. Now, these zombie-looking mothers may have a really dumbass name, but they're super aggressive and they'll attack on sight. They're usually found in groups, and going by this gameplay footage, they mainly inhabit dark locations and disused buildings, which is just bloody perfect. Their behaviour and the way they move is similar to that of apes, and they'll often use nearby debris as primitive weapons. So they're basically a bit like that ape at the start of 2001: A Space Odyssey, if that ape had gone to Chernobyl for a full-body waxing treatment. Bit extreme, mate. How about next time you go, you just stick to the standard backsack and crack, eh?
Legendary B6 bunker complex. Huge storage facility.
It's not just monsters you need to worry about, though. Humans will also try their best to turn you into one of the ex-living. In the previous 2 games, there were multiple enemy factions to worry about. There were the Nazis of the Fourth Reich, who worshipped Hitler and were, of course, massive pricks. There was a Red Line communist army who commanded the largest territory in the metro, and of course there were your typical packs of smelly murdermens, aka bandits. As we're moving out of the metro system for Exodus, it's not yet known if the Fourth Reich or the Red Line will make a return, but it's probably a good guess to say that we'll see at least some bandits. Apart from that, the only real faction we've got any idea about so far is a bizarre technophobic cult led by someone called Silantius.
Amen!
Their base is located near the Volga River, and at least one of your missions will involve infiltrating that base and inserting bullets and other sharp objects into the soft bits of all the cultists. Oh, and they also worship a big fish called the Tsarfish, because, well, why not, I suppose?
Praise be to Tsarfish, the protector of the people.
I heard these tombs of the dead can mess with your mind, so don't lose it in there. Okay? Let's go.
Alrighty, the final thing you need to know about Metro Exodus is the fact that it'll definitely feature some kind of spooky phenomena. Sightings of ghosts were a pretty common occurrence in previous games, as was clapping your eyes on this thing here, an anomaly. Not much is known about this electric ball of pain, but it does seem to show some signs of being sentient, although I wouldn't try getting into a conversation with it because it'll just act like a microwave full of forks and cook your innards in a heartbeat before exploding you all over a wall. Now, anomalies are in, but how about the dark ones that I mentioned earlier? Well, it would be strange if they're not in here somewhere, but they've not been mentioned yet, and as their activity was mainly based around Moscow city centre, it might be a stretch to see them this far out of town. And there we go, those were 7 things you needed to know about Metro Exodus, along with some background information that will hopefully get you into the right mindset for Artyom's next adventure when it comes out in the new year. As ever, if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like, do subscribe to Eurogamer for more Metro Exodus videos when we hear more about it, and do try to not let a giant godfish eat the bottom of your boat. Goodbye.
And if the heretics come for our lives, we will stand firm.